Welcome back! It is the final part of the electroforming series. If you have been following along, you are at the final stage, which is polishing, patina, and sealing your jewelry. So if you're new here, if you want to start from the beginning and learn how to electroform, then start up here. If you've been following along, then hopefully you have a piece that is ready to electroform. So in our last video, we finally just electroformed this little piece here, just something quick that was made. It has been sitting out for a bit, just in the basement, so there are some parts where the humidity has gotten to it and it's a little bit patinaed already. So what we're gonna do is polish this up nicely, clean it, do a patina on it, and then seal it. Now everybody does have their own process for finishing their jewelry. It varies from maker to maker, especially when it comes to electroforming. There's a variety of ways that you can finish something. So I'm just going to show you my method and what I like to use and how I like to go about it. So we're gonna get started with polishing, finishing, patina, all that fun stuff with this little piece. So you're gonna need a few things. First, some sort of rotary tool. So I use the Works Maker X with a little brass bristle brush. This works very well for me. Now you can use any sort of rotary tool, whether it's a Dremel, a Works, or a Fordham. Fordham is what a lot of jewelry makers do use, but the Works tools work really well. I've been using it for several years and I love it. Now, if you don't have a rotary tool of some sort, what you can also use is a bristle brush, like a manual bristle brush. You can get a brass one or stainless steel, and this works really well too, but it's just a little bit extra effort because you have to sit there and brush it. But these will work just as well in a pinch, and you can even use steel wool. That's also a very common one, especially if you don't need a super ton of polishing. Like this is already pretty bright, so I don't need tons of polishing to get it to where I want it to be. Now you can also use some kind of paste if it's really dull. If it's been sitting for a long time, you can use some sort of like copper shine polish. So in this case, I'm not really going to be using this because it is shiny. I'm just going to go over it with the brass. Now, the other thing, when you are using a Dremel, a rotary tool with a bristle disc, you also want to make sure you use your safety glasses, because obviously if those bristles break off and they fly, you kind of don't want them in your eyes. Now, if you are going to want to change the color of your pieces, you're going to want to use something like liver of sulfur. So I have some liver of sulfur in the gel form. This is my favorite method of creating a patina on a copper piece. You can use something like brass black, so that also is something that will help antique. Today I am going to use just the liver of sulfur. Obviously I get like an old glass jar and something to stir the liver of sulfur, so you are going to need some hot water. You don't need boiling water, but you do want hot water for your liver of sulfur. And then you are going to want some sort of baking soda. So get some baking soda, throw it into water. This is what you're going to use to stop the reaction of the patina. And the other thing you're going to want is some sort of sealant potentially. So I do tend to seal almost all of my pieces of jewelry. So first I do wash it with the Easy Prep so that the sealant can adhere to it very well. And then personally, for copper pieces, I use Everbright Protect-A-Clear. But you can also use something like Renaissance wax, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. First thing I am going to do is polish up this piece, so that way I have like that nice shiny coat in all parts of it. So right now, there's a bunch of parts where it's not quite shiny. It's mostly shiny, but it's not super shiny. It's kind of dull because it's been sitting down here in my basement, which is somewhat humid. So that does not help the patina. It naturally oxidizes, and the copper has gotten a little bit darker than what it was when I took it out of the bath. Now this brass bristle disc, I buy these in like packs because I do kind of go through them quickly. Sometimes these bristles break off, so make sure you're wearing your safety glasses because they will fly and hit your face. Now if you have overgrowth, so in this case I have all of these bumpy portions and overgrowths. If I really wanted to, I can grind them down with a silicone carbide wheel. In this case, I like them. I'm not really going to grind them down. I don't think it's necessary. So let's polish this up. Now, a lot of times you can leave your piece at the stage if you're happy with it, if you think everything looks good, if you like the shiny copper color, you can leave it that way. What you can also do is patina it. Now, I personally like to patina most of my pieces because it brings out the depth of the detail, so it gets into all the little cracks, and then I just shine back up the highlights of the piece. So we are going to patina this today, and I am going to use liver of sulfur to patina it. Now, if you do leave your piece naturally copper, it will patina slowly over time, and it'll kind of naturally oxidize as time goes on. Now, you can kind of stop this process a bit by using something like this Everbright solution, but over time that still does wear away, and you'll still get, your piece will still start to oxidize naturally. And you can always restore that shine back by using a brass bristle brush, by using some sort of polishing compound, or by throwing in a tumbler and then resealing it, so that way you still have a pretty shiny copper piece. Yeah, so personally I think that's a very unique feature of Electroformed jewelry. As you wear it, it will kind of age over time and age with you, and a lot of times that aging process is very, very pretty because it does tend to change color a bit, and it's just something natural that is part of handmade jewelry, but it's also easily fixable for those of you that have copper electroformed jewelry and just always want to have that shiny copper look. It just requires a little bit more maintenance than typical jewelry that you might buy, but it'll still last a very long time. I got my jar of hot water, so what I'm going to do is pour some hot water directly in here and squeeze a little bit of liver of sulfur in here. I don't need a lot, just a little bit. Liver of sulfur does have quite the smell of rotten eggs or something, so it definitely has a funky smell to it. So what we're gonna do is take this, I usually hang it on a wire, and we are going to dip it into the liver of sulfur. Now you see it almost instantly, it gets bronze, and it just gets darker and darker. I'm going to leave it there for a second. I want this to get very nice and dark, and I'm going to fill a cup with some baking soda. This will stop the reaction. Okay, I got some baking soda and cold water, and that's going to dissolve. So let's see what our piece looks like. It's getting nice and dark, so I still want it a little bit darker. Okay, I want to try to achieve that like almost silvery look. It looks like it's mostly going to stay this nice black color. Just want to see if I can get it a little darker. I feel like I got a very good darkness. So we're going to just rinse it off. Now this baking soda and water solution will neutralize the reaction, so it'll stop getting darker further. If you just want a slight bronzing of it or just a little bit of a dark copper, just dip it in quick and then right into here, and it will stop at that level of darkness that you want. So the patina definitely gives it some really cool effects. Now, put my glasses back on. I'm going to shiny it up a little bit. So I'm going to go put my bristle disc back in, and we're going to add some shine to it. This will kind of help bring the details back out. So I darkened this piece until it was this very dark gray, almost black color, and then I used the bristle disc to shiny it up, and I got this really cool gunmetal silver. This is actually just a really cool color, and I actually really like how it looks with the blue, so it went from being a shiny copper to this like gunmetal silver color, and I gotta say, I'm very quite happy with how this turned out. I am gonna leave the insides not shiny just to kind of give it that depth, so I just shinied up the outside portions. Now what I'm going to do is clean it. So what I do is clean it with an acid neutralizer. I use Everprep Easy Bright, so it's a highly concentrated cleaner, so especially like right now. I'm going to put just a little droplet of this into some water, and with this I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean so there's no like oils from my fingers, no more leftover liver of sulfur on there or anything, and then we're just going to seal it. So I'm going to use the Ever Bright Protect-A-Clear. This is my favorite sealer for electroforming. This is what I've always been using. It's a very nice like clear coat. It really helps stay long term to protect things from oxidation, so it lasts years. I've had copper electroform pieces for years and they have had minimal oxidation. There's never none, but there is minimal, especially if you coat it and let it dry. Now this does have a kind of a longer cure time. Yeah, so this takes about 24 hours to really fully cure. So I always just let it hang somewhere for about 24 hours. This is stuff that you really don't want to be breathing in. So you want to make sure you're wearing your mask, wear gloves, and or eye protection just in case you don't want anything splashing your eye, obviously. So while it's a very good coating, it's definitely something that you want to be a little bit more careful with. In this little can, I usually get about 3 to 4 years out of these cans. Now you can do two methods when you're applying. You can either dip it into the solution or you can just paint it on with a paintbrush. So I'm going to paint it on. Now another option, if you want something that has a little bit more of a matte finish, would be using Renaissance wax. So you can also use this, which I was debating on using it, but I kind of want to see how the color changes with the Ever Bright Protect-A-Clear, because the Protect-A-Clear goes on shiny and it does slightly change the finish. So this might look a little bit more bronzed rather than pure silver, but we'll see what that looks like once I put it on, because it kind of changes it almost instantly. Chopsticks are my favorite thing to use to stir stuff down here. A tiny bit of the solution. You don't need a lot, just a few droplets. It is concentrated, so you really don't need a lot. Kind of give it a nice mix up. And I'm gonna hook it back onto my little thing. So basically I just dip it and clean it in this. And now we're just going to dry it off good. So I really like how shiny silver that looks. It just looks really cool. Just being able to change that color from copper to that shiny silver definitely made it look really cool. Okay, now that that's done, I'm gonna throw some gloves on. So make sure you wear gloves and a mask. You don't want to be breathing the stuff in. And I'm just gonna paint it gently. Now as I paint, I can kind of see it slightly changing and darkening again, so the silver becomes a little less shiny. Not that it becomes a little less shiny, but it gets a like bronzed slightly look in some cases. Now I always take the piece and I hang them. Whenever I finish painting something with Protect-A-Clear, I usually hang it on a drying rack. So I usually have it on like these little copper wires and I just hang it. In this case, I'm just hanging it from my little arm stand thing. And then I keep a layer of parchment paper underneath it. This will let it dry safely. I actually am going to wash my brush in the soap because it'll just kind of stick the bristles together. And that's it. So that's basically how I finish my pieces. It's not a very complicated process. It's what I've been doing for a long time. I basically just polish everything, use liver of sulfur as a patina, and then seal it. So this piece is now ready to get put onto a necklace and potentially might go up in the Etsy shop. So we'll see what it looks like when it is finally completely dry and cured. But so far I'm pretty happy with it. I think it came out really cool, and I think I got a really cool color combination, which that silver color is a little bit harder to achieve. So just something to bring up. Say that you get too much patina on your piece, or these pieces have been sitting for a long time and have oxidized. Can you remove it? Now, yes, there is a way to remove it. So what some people do to remove extra oxidation that they really don't want to kind of help the process along is boil some vinegar and add a tablespoon of salt. So 1 cup of vinegar and a tablespoon of salt. And then you want to place your piece in the water for a little while. And that should help remove some of the oxidation that you don't want. You can use a nylon brush with some just salt on it to kind of make almost like a paste. That'll help scrub out the oxidation. And there's a couple different methods. Obviously, using a polishing agent will help bring it back to life and bring that nice shininess back. To get this sort of silver result, you have to start with a very, very shiny piece. So when I saw how this had come out of the bath, super shiny, I was just like, ooh, I am going to try to see if I can get this silver color. It's a little bit more difficult to achieve, but you can get it done. It works very well. So I hope you enjoyed this series. It is finally through. We have made an Electroform piece, and hopefully if you've been following along, you've been able to make your own piece and you've been able to electroform something, and now you can finish it, seal it, and hopefully be able to start selling them if you want to, or just make them for yourself as a neat little gift. So I am going to do a few more videos on electroforming, things like filtering a bath and some troubleshooting videos, but I kind of can't wait to get back into just fun little making of videos. I really enjoyed making those, so those will be the next couple things you see, I think. Other than maybe a filtering one, because obviously you can see my beaker right behind me. The solution is still in it, even though I said you shouldn't leave the solution there. But yeah, I'm going to make a video on it. That is why I left it, and it's actually doing something that I want to show you guys. So yes, I did leave it partially on purpose, partially because I have gotten sick and I really didn't feel like filtering and doing all the stuff that I should. I hope you continue to follow along as I make stuff. So don't forget to click that like button, hit the subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any videos as they come out. I'll see you guys at the next one.